Hello, everybody. This is the Drunkduck Quackcast. I have Ozone Ocean, your resident dickhead, and with me is my resident not dickheads, which are Baines and Taunt Serene.
Hello.
Hello.
So we're doing our little Quackcast here, and this is Quackcast number 783. And the topic is, where do we go from here? Theme music. Our theme music, Thunder Guys. Okay, so now we're talking about the Quackcast. No featured comic this week because I had a terrible cluster headache that made me want to die, and I forgot to do the damn feature, and so there wasn't any feature this week. I'm very sorry about that. So I'm doing the next week's one instead, giving Quai the week off. Sure.
You could do yourself a favor and check out Pinky Teal.
Oh, yes. Yes, there's a new story and there'll be a new page soon. I'm wanting to be coloured, get it coloured, but it's just been taking so damn long. So, yes. Anyway, music this week, I'll surprise you with something. And the surprise is Filaments. A Kerbop story. The mysterious dark shadowy reaches of space, glowing tendrils of pink, gassy nebula, dimly seen, distant stars, shadowy pockmarked asteroids, turning lazily. A happy little jaunty tune, plucked out on strings, winds its way through the gloom, spreading cheer and light. This was originally from Quackcast 497, the 22nd of September, 2020. Take it away, Gumwells, with your theme to Filaments, a Kerbop story. That was our music. Okay, so where do we go from here? Which is a fantastic line in a David Essex song, Rock On, I think it's called. That's what Baines told me anyway. Fantastic song. But we're not talking about David Essex, who actually performed on War of the Worlds, which is a great concept album. No, we're not talking about David Essex. We're talking about... where do we go from here? So you're writing a story, you've got a bunch of characters doing a bunch of things, and you hit a spot where basically you don't know where to go from there. And there's various reasons why you don't know where to go from there. It could be that you introduced a bunch of things into the story, and the story kind of evolved or changed into something that doesn't really follow your script anymore, or your script really isn't enough for the story. Considering all the stuff that has happened. And you think, okay, so where do I go from here? It doesn't really feel right. It could be that you lose enthusiasm, so you're following a script as you go, but you're thinking, oh God, I just don't care anymore. I don't want to follow this storyline. It's not interesting to me. I wanted to do something more better than this. So there's that. Or it could be like Chance had told us the idea of the basing issue. So you're into a new chapter, but you don't know where to start. Like, where do I go from? Like, I've reached this point in my story now, and how, where, what? So there's all kinds of different reasons where you can sort of get into that point, isn't there? That you can reach a stumbling block.
Yeah. I mean, you might have even done a story, and now, without even anticipating, you do a sequel. If you have the opportunity, or for whatever reason you're going to do a sequel or volume 2 without Moonlight, Tenses Without Moonlight volume 2 is coming. So it's like, then you have all these questions. Okay, well, where do we pick up? What do we skip? What do we, where do we go? Where do we go now?
Where do we go from here? Exactly.
Speaking of what to show and what to not, like even on a sort of smaller level, I see this with comedies a lot. In particular, it's like sometimes you want to see the funny scene in question, say on a Seinfeld episode or something, like that. You see this funny thing play out. Sometimes it's funnier, it's way funnier to have a character say what happened.
Okay.
So that's interesting too. It's like, do I show this? I was planning to show it, but if the character just says what happened, it's way funnier, or it's way more effective, or it's doing things in the right way, so we can move forward. So it's even stuff like that, like exactly how do we get from this point to that point? Even if the plan is staying the same, it's like, the path can be kind of a challenge to figure out.
Okay, a challenge. Yeah, that's true. Like, what do you think, Tance, on that?
Yeah, that's Bain said it all basically, and it's also sometimes you might want to not exactly change directions or anything like that, but you might want to wind down, for example, from whatever was like a high octane scene, or you may want to start setting up something new that has to come after whatever chapter or section or arc you have finished. And that might be challenging, like to seamlessly and organically ease into whatever comes next, and and not make it feel like episodic, like okay, this is like a new episode, uh, instead of the story progressing. So yeah, you have to answer a series of questions with yourself, like, okay, so the characters have completed XYZ. What what do they want to do? Why? And why will they do that, or why will they not do that? If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the problem of writing yourself into a corner. So you have created like the solve it either. So there's also that. And that's another where do we go from here when you don't know how to resolve a situation that you have set up. Um,
That's a common one. Not knowing how to resolve something. Or even finding your original script inadequate to the purpose. Like, you think it all works out well, it's all fantastic, but when you're actually, put your story into practice, you've done your pages and stuff like that, and you think, this script is not, that doesn't work. That just doesn't make sense if I do it that way. I have to redo things, or else I'm just going to not be able to get anywhere, because that doesn't make sense. Like, I've had moments of that. Like, functional moments. Like, early on in Pinky Tear, I've got this scene where, you've got this mecha on a certain deck and everything's there and stuff like that, and then hang on, it couldn't launch from that part of the ship. how do I get this massive thing onto the, oh God, I have to write that in somehow or make it make sense. Or... That's when I was still thinking of in a very linear way, because you don't have to write in a very linear way. Things can like jump from moments. You don't have to include a lot of like functionality in stories. But that's back when I thought you had to. But there's something. So you could reach a point in a story and go, so, oh, where do I go from here? And you don't realize it, but you don't have to go from there. You could just stop there and jump to another scene.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So
that's exactly what we did.
That's probably what Tolkien did when he was writing The Hobbit, I reckon. Or The Lord of the Rings. That's The Lord of the Rings. That's the one. You know, because you're reading through that and then suddenly everything stops and you're onto something other eventually. Oh, I want to read about the hobbits. I don't want to read about this boring stuff with Aragorn and whatever bullshit this is. Take me back.
Yeah, same. That was my frustration when I was reading Tolkien for the first time. It's like, I don't care about those people. Let me see what the hobbits are doing.
Exactly. Yeah. So scene jumping is an important thing. See, a lot of people think of, non-linear writing. That's like, we do this. You know, these two stories in parallel, or something like happened 20 years before, and we have it running parallel to this thing that happened 20 years after. That's non-linear writing. Isn't just that. That's just people being dickheads and trying to be clever in a dumb way. They're trying to be clever and they're not being clever, because that's not clever. That's just being complicated for no reason. Non-linear can be in any way that doesn't directly follow one from another. So it can be scenes that jump into like 10 minutes into the future or 20 minutes in the future. Yeah, it's still like a progression from that moment to that moment, but you're not doing a direct progression from there. So it isn't like strictly linear. So that's what I think anyway, and what I think matters, because I'm a thoughtful person.
Yes, they be. Yeah, I do think that sometimes you have, sometimes, and that, like, I do this to myself a lot. Like, you overcomplicate things by trying to explain away certain situations that perhaps isn't necessary to explain them.
Yeah.
Like
all the
how
time.
they go from A to B. I have to show that. No, you don't. You can just cut to that. And if there is something that you need to mention, it can be mentioned in the dialogue.
It's like, how did these characters meet? You know, they've already met before. So how do I indicate that? Blah, blah. You don't have to.
Exactly.
You barely, mention it. It's like, oh, I like that jumper you're wearing. It looked better when, I had it before. You nicked it from me. Whatever, You can just
Yeah.
lame stuff in there. But, yeah, we overthink stuff. You're correct. We make it too complicated, and that is what knots us up. So we have trouble progressing from beyond there. Whereas if we can just let it flow, we could easily go from here to here. What about humour? Can that be a bit of a block sometimes when you think, how can I make this funny? I need a joke here.
I never do that, so Baines should talk.
Yeah, that's rough, and I'm kind of there in a way with the next 2 pages of Continuity Falls. It's a weekly thing I do in the front page of the Duck, and it's all the rage. But I have a section of story. It's this page coming this week, and then the one next week, where a lot of stuff happens. It kind of ends a certain storyline, but things keep going. And it's been very tough to figure out, how does this page end and that page, what happens on this page and on that page, because it doesn't really end with a strong joke this way. There's so much to get through even the bare bones, I've gone over it and over it so many times. I don't want to stretch it out more than 2 pages because that would be ridiculous. It can't all fit into one, I don't think. So I have it now, just like yesterday and today, mostly last night. Kind of got okay. I'll stop it here, but it still means this page doesn't really end on a joke. It kind of. I should complain about this after it's posted. Maybe I can fix it. But it kind of ends with a little bit of a twist and a reaction. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, the way I have it, that's only panel 3 and 4. That's kind of weird. Okay, so the next I can't do the next panel in a certain way, but the last panel. Why am I doing this? It's going to ruin any enjoyment. But the last panel has like explanation. There's like exposition on the last panel. And I think it kind of works, but it's like it doesn't work as well as it should or could.
I know what you mean.
But yeah, that's been a tough one to do. Like you want to end on a punch or on a twist or on the joke. And that it just pacing it out and timing it out has been very tough to unravel everything. Even though I had this plan for a long time. It's like actually getting there. I mean, we'll get there. It's very tough. Lost in the woods, just like the characters are.
Yes, plans are tricky. They are. What I've always found with plans that I come up with, I put a lot of thought into scripting and plans, and sometimes I lose them when I'm doing a story, or I've only got a simplified version to work on of the more complicated plan, and I think, oh, I've coming up with these excellent ideas and genius things, and oh, this is so much cleverer than, what I think I had written. And then I find the original plan. I think, oh my God, no. The original plan was genius. all my arrogance, my hubris, and thinking I could be cleverer than past ozone. I can't be. He's sorted out everything before I even touched the page.
Like, forget about that old man. He's in the past.
So yeah, sometimes it's worth trying to stick to a plan. That's one thing I've learned with my own writing over the years, that when in doubt, go back to the plan and see, because it might see you through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a trusted process thing at that point.
It works because even on smaller scales, so I sketch out a page, and then I go over it with a slightly, more refined lines, and then I go over that with more refined lines. And often I find, I rub out all that extra drawing I've done, and I just go back to the original sketch and try and capture that energy, because all this other work's just gone through and lost it, or these genius little touches. I have to have the arm actually pointing this way instead of that way, and that's way better. And I go back and think, no, I was so smart in the beginning. That's perfect.
Sure. Or it could be like, I had this action scene, this sort of medium shot action scene, and that scene, but a close up on somebody's intense eyes is way better, or is another way to go. Something like that visually. It's like, the camera could be, it doesn't have to be showing this. We could go in close and, or maybe this next scene is outside the house or whatever. So we just hear the dialogue and we don't see the characters in that panel. Stuff like that is fun.
Speaking of close-ups of eyes, every time I want to do a page that's tense, I'm always channeling that Sergio Leone scene. I think it's Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, right.
Close up the eyes. I'm always thinking I should do one of those, the close-up scene of the eyes. That's the best thing you get.
I think about that all the time too. Sadly, my stories never really allow for that.
Never give you a chance.
No, they're too much. They're too comedic. So sometimes you get a nice reaction shot.
Mhm.
You just got to do an entire page of eye close-ups.
That could be a nice joke.
True.
They're looking down here and then up there and then over there. Down. Could be Truck explaining. And then, oh my God, she was up here, and his eyes are pointing up there. And then she was down there, and his eyes are pointing down. Then she was over there. I didn't know where she was.
Or a couple of characters who are very slow-witted, and you have close-ups of their eyes as they ponder something. It's very obvious.
Yeah.
They're up here, and then they're out there. So they're pointing inwards. Oh dear. That's where you
another
go.
thing.
When in doubt,
Go
do an
on.
eye close-up.
Exactly. I have
What
done
we draw?
many.
Yeah.
Another thing is that you might get lost in the process, in the sense that I realized, like when I was about towards the end of Verdant, I was trying to script out the fight for when the Silva appears and she basically trounces the scale guy. And then after I started trying to approach how this will be illustrated, it occurred to me, like this entire chapter at least is through Ethan's point of view, and Ethan is about to dive in and pass out. He's not gonna see this. So maybe you should be consistent and just let the audience see what he sees, as we have been doing, throughout this one first chapter. So
Okay.
the last page is him falling into the water, and that's that.
Yeah, that's nice.
Okay, that gives you a good kind of way to work. Yeah. That is very intelligent. Yeah, you look at that and you think, okay, so where is the point of view of this story? Oh, that means I don't have to include all this other stuff because this is from this character's point of view.
Mm.
Limit your scope, which is okay.
Yeah.
That's a good point to make. Limiting the scope. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, and also it depends. Sometimes you need the scope to be limited. Otherwise, you're going to give away certain things that shouldn't be revealed at that particular point in time of the story for the story to work. Because, for example, in Verdant, the whole thing is going to be full of political intrigue, basically. And there are a lot of things that already have happened and are going to happen that are very cloak and dagger and very much like political and not so political machinations that you have to, like the audience will slowly peel away together with the main character that is Ethan. And so that means we should see what he sees, perceive what he perceives, instead of showing everything that would give some things away.
Yeah.
Because another problem I had, like, okay, but if I illustrate this thing, then I will show how X, Y, Z thing happens. And then that will give away a lot of things that I plan to reveal a lot later. So what? And then I remember, like, wait, point of view, your point of view is not that. So
That's good. That reminds me, say, the difference between, say, this is something we haven't done for a long time, but Star Wars, the original series, and the prequels. And I'm just going to say it because of, say, in the first movie, Star Wars, not A New Hope, it was just called Star Wars. Fuck you. All right, so in the first film, you think, okay, the story is just about I don't know, Luke versus the Empire, Luke versus, the Death Star. You got Darth Vader as the big bad, you got Luke. It's a small story. So that's how you're introduced to the story. And then in the other films, you learn, okay, the Empire is actually a massive place with these cloud cities and moons and other planets and stuff like that. Oh my god, it's huge. And you get... But the first film was just... It limited the scope. It was from Luke's point of view. You weren't introduced to any other, like, outside... Oh, there's this person, there's that person. I mean, you did see what was going on the bridge of the Star Destroyer and stuff like that, but it was a very limited scope kind of film, and it introduced you to this massive space opera with a very small, way into it. Now, versus the first film in the prequel series, you start off with I can't remember how it starts, but you've got these two stupid Jedi in their disgusting, clanky spaceship going across the galaxy to fix some issue somewhere, Naboo. But you're introduced to this trade embargo thing. So already the galaxy is just dumped on you. It's like this huge dog turd just fallen from the sky, splattered all over your head, It's just, oh my god, how do I... Where? What? Trade embargo around the planet? It's massive. And within that, and there's already this kind of war between, these robots and these weird slug people on this planet. Oh my god, you don't even know. Like, everything's so huge and random and chaotic. And then you've also this woman with crazy makeup and what's happening there. And then you've got this pod race, which feels like it should be the small little window into the story. Like, if the pod race was the main thing, then that would have been a great film. Like, that would have been an interesting, cool film if it was just about this little kid making his pod racer, trying to get really good. But no, you've got all this other crap flowing like a tidal wave from everywhere else. And... yeah, the scope isn't limited, so that helps the story fail, basically. So yeah,
that would have been interesting. Wow, now that you mentioned
that would have been a lot more interesting.
Yeah, like a way smaller climax. How different from the original movie that would have been. Yeah, it would have been, in hindsight.
Exactly, it would have
And
given
also,
them somewhere to build from after that. They go, oh wow, this pod race is interesting. I want to see what that fits into, and then build up from there. Oh wow, then you build up the bigger world. Anyway, sorry, Tom.
no, I was gonna say the same thing. So
okay, yeah. So that's. I mean, we have sort of. Straight a bit, but say there's this great series of books by one of my favorite fantasy authors back when I was really into fantasy, Raymond E. Feist. He still is a good fantasy writer, and he made his fortune based on this one particular novel called Magician, and it's a great fantasy novel. It's sort of like Tolkien-esque as a lot of like 80s fantasy was. That was just the law, because publishers really loved publishing novels that had a bit of a Tolkien-esque flavor, but it's not. But anyway, the story starts by focusing on two children and them discovering a bizarre shipwreck with people who don't fit in their world. And they're just two kids. They're peasant boys. They still haven't chosen a job in life because they're too young. They're just learning about stuff. And they're, going away from the castle just to go down to the shore and see what the soldiers have seen on this beach with all these dead soldiers on this ship that doesn't seem to fit into their world. And that is such an excellent limited scope way of introducing you to the massive conflict that's going to happen in this story, in this series, by just limiting it to children and their experience of the world. And the story kind of progresses by following the lives of these two children and the different paths they take in this world. One becomes a knight and one becomes a magician in their different ways, and they learn more and discover more about the world, and it just expands from there. But limiting scope is such a powerful tool in bringing the audience along with you, and as well as making it easier for you to write too.
Yeah. And in that note, I'm watching this Chinese drama these days that is still ongoing. But they have this, it starts really nicely with this girl that is very, very strong, like stronger than 2 or 3 men. And she is just a pig butcher. And so
A
we
pig
just
butcher,
watch,
did you say?
yes, she butchers pigs.
Okay.
And like the whole thing starts, and it's for me it was a shocker because I don't like seeing that. But how she humanely kills a pig, and that's how we are introduced to her. And the entire first episode is just her in her community and trying to survive because she basically is an orphan and has a younger sister, and they have to make ends meet and so on and so forth. And then towards the end of the episode, she finds this man that is half buried in the snow and very injured. And she has to contemplate whether to rescue him, which is going to cost her money because she will need to buy medicine and all of that, or just leave him to die there. And and then the other 3 episodes is just her. She rescues him, of course, and it's just her trying to make ends meet and also help him back to health. And it's only that.
Okay.
And then you find, and it's very engaging because she's a charming, uh, like she looks like a little doll. She's really pretty, and and there are little hints dropped that there is something huge happening just off camera in a sense. Like she is not aware of it, he is aware of it, nobody else is aware of it, and you know that this thing is edging closer, but you don't know what it is, and that's how you are engaged. So they take their time building while also introducing you to the world, the stakes, and what you should and you shouldn't expect. So by the time the big thing hits, you are so familiar that everything is super exciting and super visceral because you care about the people you have met and so on and so forth. So uh, if Star Wars, the original series, had done that, trilogy had done that, and maybe made more movies instead of just 3, that would have been, I think, a lot more engaging because the political intrigue in Star Wars is good. It is a pretty good setup. It's just delivered in the most boring way possible, at least for me.
Yeah.
Like in reality, where we are now, or whatever, in reality, when we have a trade embargo that's the cause of a war, you never like find out about it from the bridge of a warship. You find out about it from newspapers and news stories and stuff like that. That's how you find out about those things, and you get like abridged, summarized versions that make sense. And yeah, it's actually showing the whole trade embargo happening and people talking about it and then debating it in a Senate. That's not an interesting way to show those things.
You know what?
Documentary.
Yeah. You know what? Even those scenes and the debate and all of that could have been very interesting if, before you saw all that, you had a scene with a couple of characters that you care about trying to buy something, and it's suddenly 3 times more expensive and they cannot buy it. And it's because of the trade embargo.
Yes,
And now
it makes
you
more
know why.
sense.
Yeah, and now you know why it is important, and so you are gonna listen now to what all these big wigs are saying, because the damn thing, you have already seen its impact.
Yeah. So there you go. Like the whole thing, where do we go from here? What Lucas should have done is, why should characters care about a trade embargo? Why should that be a problem?
Mm.
And characters shouldn't care about it unless it matters to their lives,
Mm.
in their livelihoods, their routine. It makes them angry, makes them sad, or whatever, and it's not going to make them sad or angry or even interested to know what's going on in a Senate somewhere, or to know what's going on some warship that's sort of happening somewhere outside of their experience. No, you got to connect it to them, make it personal. That's a
Exactly.
good thing. So the lesson in there is, like, for your characters, make something connect to the audience in some way.
Mm. Exactly.
Yeah, and it would be kind of like a matter of characters you care about. So the characters who are struggling to make ends meet, you see what they're going through, and you're on their side. Then you could cut to the Senate, the senators who are fighting for the right thing, and the senators who are treacherous and stuff like that, and you have a clash of interesting personalities. And, you connect to those characters and you care about them and what they want, and
Exactly.
relatable to real life. And yeah, that could have been more than fine.
Yeah, because I don't like. You can think about, okay, so like prices, oil prices, or whatever. The price of a loaf of bread. What your first thought isn't to look at a political broadcast and see what a
No.
senator or representative is talking about, because it won't have anything to do with that directly anyway. It's all indirect. It's not. Yeah. And they're some entitled wanker. They don't care about you anyway. So.
Exactly. I do think it's a shame, because after I don't know how many decades now, that I saw the actual premise again. Like, I read over exactly what the premise was with the embargo and the politics and all that. That was really good as a concept. It's
Yep.
just the delivery that did it did it dirty, in a sense. Um,
I suppose
yeah.
it's not really good, but it's structurally it makes sense. Structurally, you could say it's good, but you have to have more than just a structure. Like, if Tolkien had done Lord of the Rings and just kept it as a Silmarillion, no one would have ever given a shit. But because he put it into the format of the Lord of the Rings, wow, that's cool, that's fun, that's amazing. I love that. But yeah, the Silmarillion is only for people who've read Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and want more.
Exactly.
Don't start there. But yeah, Lucas didn't get that memo. He started with the Silmarillion. Well, I mean, he gave us The Hobbit.
No, he gave us something in between, because the first trilogy is the first trilogy. So
Yeah. The first trilogy, he gave us the good trilogy, and then he gave us, his working notes.
yeah, I mean, especially the basic answer in where do we go from here is, where does it make sense for the characters to go from here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where do the characters want to go from here?
I think that is one answer.
Mm.
It's not the only one.
No, definitely not.
Because you could say, where do we go from here? You could be like, what was it? The big fad in the early 2000s was to be so random and have something that just, like, some character blast in and say, "Oh, I'm pregnant," or I'm Sonic and I hate you. So yeah, I mean, you could okay, so you could throw in a random thing, like a character suddenly gets run over by a car, you know, or an uncle from overseas drops in. So it could be that is your kind of way forward.
Yeah, yeah. And that can be a legit way to move forward. Like something happens that disturbs the waters that just settled.
Right.
Complicates things. Don't want to complicate it too much, because then you'll rope
Hmm.
yourself into another hole. It's probably even worse. But if you complicate things a little bit, that'll give you a little bit of easy way of doing things.
Another way, going back to structure, this is why structure can be very helpful if someone wants to use these tools to kind of go in either a character arc or just a character, what they're all about. So, like, who is this character? What do they want? What are they looking to do? What is the story about in a bigger picture kind of way? And you go back, and dig into that. And that can involve, like, oh, okay, we bring in the uncle, the eccentric uncle, and he's pregnant. And like, how does that, whatever it might be.
Oh,
And also knowing how a character arc works, and this doesn't apply always, but it can be something like where are we at in this character's journey. This is why knowing structure can help if you're lost. Okay, where are they? Okay, are they still kind of suffering with this old thing that they're still dealing with in their past, and like what's going to be the next kind of way that they try to overcome it, or the next way we can show that they're still not where they need to be to move forward. Knowing some of that stuff can help.
That's a very good point. One way you see that they do this in British sitcoms traditionally, British sitcoms, not so much a lot of other ones, but they would always revert back to type. So if you have character tropes, they would always go, okay, so where do we go from here? Blah, blah. Okay, so this character is basically a nerdy dork. We'll just go back to that and just have him being a nerdy dork again. You know? Right. And that's their way of doing it. The characters will always revert back to their own stereotype or trope. And that will always see them through, because they'll always handle whatever situation according to their personality type. And if something goes off the rails or whatever, it doesn't matter, because you could always just make them behave in their typical way. That's the only way you have to have them deal with it, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So. Or you just roll credits right there, then the next episode we're all back where we started.
Well, yeah, when you get to the 24-minute mark.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're out of time. Commercials.
But yeah, that kind of reverting to trope, reverting to type, can seem cliched, but it actually works. And if it's written well enough that you don't see the structure, because this is an important thing, if you write well enough, the structure won't be that visible, even though it is solidly there. It can work. It can be great.
Oh yeah, that's how you get your comfort food and like long running things that people really love.
So, and that kind of thing, like you say, it's for long running stuff. So if you've got a comic strip, a comedy comic strip, that's ideal for that. For long dramatic stories, obviously, that's not good, because dramatic stories involve character growth typically. So, sorry, but you can't have your characters not grow in a long running story. And can you? Like, we always talk about, like, you know, don't do what we say, do what fits. You know, this is only a guide. So given that, can you have characters that just revert to type and don't grow?
I think so.
Okay. In a
sure.
proper dramatic story, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Or you see them recommit to who they are, or discover who they really are, and maybe it's not so good. Maybe it's not overcoming. They just whatever's inside them comes out, and you might see a new version of that, like Breaking Bad or something. I mean, there's definitely a character arc in that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But you can have a character from start to finish of the story without actually changing, like staying constant. If you have, for example, a character that has already completed, let's say, their hero's journey before the story begins, and they already know who they are and what they are, and they don't develop more in the sense that they don't have something very tangible to change. So they start off, with XYZ parameters, and then after everything is said and done, they still have these XYZ parameters. So you could technically do that.
Okay, yeah, like I'm thinking like a Clint Eastwood film, like one of those westerns. Those like Josie Wales or something. Those characters don't change; stay the same from beginning to end.
Or a Bond or something, or a PI story, like a detective story.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like stories where the point isn't necessarily for the main character to evolve, but for the main character to resolve something, like a puzzle or something like that.
Yeah. Although I do find character stories where characters don't change a bit, where situations haven't really left their mark on them, to be a little frustrating.
Yeah.
For some reason.
I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying that you can do it.
Yeah. No, I
like
agree. You're right.
If you don't have it, it can sometimes be lacking.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I love Halloween. The movie Halloween. But I gotta be honest, Scream is a better movie. The character arc.
Shots fired. And Ballet and something are dead mediums, and so no one cares about them apparently. So Baines is firing. That's Baines' word, not mine. Shots fired.
I didn't hear what you said. I was babbling.
No, apparently the actor Timothy Chalamet has said something like ballet and opera are dead mediums, or no one cares about them, and that's made everyone angry. And
wow.
Yeah, I mean, in saying that, it sounds like, oh my god, he said something really bad, but in reality, it's just like a off the cuff, meaningless crap. He's not really meaning that about those things. And anyway, that's beside the point.
I think I've heard that name. Other than that, I don't think I've.
Yeah, I've never watched any of his movies. It's in the new Dune or something. But yeah, anyway, I like characters that have a bit of change in them, even though that's not really the thing.
It doesn't always have to be there, but it can.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can feel like it's missing something if you don't.
It's funny that we'll have to do another podcast just about that, because I'm thinking of all the stories where you think that the character wouldn't change, like Conan the Barbarian or something, but he has a massive change. That's incredible, the change that character has.
There's this movie Up in the Air. I don't know if you guys remember it. George Clooney, where he plays this guy who all he does is fly on airplanes. He has very shallow relationships, and it was pretty good. And at the end, he's the same guy. He goes through some stuff, but at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, he's the same guy.
It sounds interesting.
It was pretty good. It was well done, yeah. But I can see why maybe it's not. I'll only speak for myself. Like why I liked it, but why maybe I don't put it in my top tier might be the character, the lack of character arc. He does go through something that impacts him, but then he kind of, in the end, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna still be who I am." And he goes through challenges, and there's something. He extends himself by the end of the movie, but then he kind of goes back. I wonder if that makes it less satisfying or less like, that's one that I'm like, oh, I could watch that again. Nah. So,
Yeah,
so,
it is a thing. It is a thing.
Scream was better than that movie too, I guess. So I watch Scream every damn day.
No, Scary Movie is the true kind of answer to that
Another story.
God. Yeah. Pure genius. Yeah, I mean, so where do we fall on this then? Like, what's your typical response to where do we go from here? For me, it's structure. That's my usual thing. I will revert back to when I say structure, it's my notes and, my story outline. That's where I go to.
Yeah, me too, I think. Yeah, that would be my
Mhm. Yeah, I'd say me too. I all back to structure and also back to strategy and perhaps a recapping. Okay, what am I doing? Like, where do we go from here? Okay, but where do we want to end up? So align the sides, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are the characters? All of that.
What about, okay, so the other one that I can't go back to structure is for what Tant said about basing. So when you start a new story, a new chapter, where do you go from there? That is something that I go, oh my God, there's so many different ways I could do it. And in that kind of situation, I'm thinking, do I do a direct linear kind of like sequel to, direct linear carry on from a particular storyline? Do I do that? Or do I try and enlighten people about these characters, how they are, by going to a different point in her timeline to show, okay, so this is why Pinky has her big ear loops. So I'll make a story about that. So I could do that. Or I could say, this is the first time she met this character. So I could mine different parts of her past in order to come up with a new story. Or I could do what I did now and go, okay, Pinky's daughter. How did she get that? I want to do a story with her daughter. How did she get that daughter? What is the relationship like between her and her daughter? And those kind of things enlighten me about where do I go from there. So my first kind of like the tinder that starts the fire is daughter. And then I have to work out everything from there. And then I create a story around that.
Yeah. I mean, it's the fun thing about Pinky TA is that every chapter could be in a completely different year. It's kind of a standalone story. It's just that character and that kind of tone of her world is what we're going to be looking at. Right? So,
yeah, she will handle
hard,
situations.
But kind of wide open.
Yeah, fun. Exactly. So that's my thing of basing. So you guys, when you're doing your stories, you're like structurally they're quite different. Like Verdant, Without Moonlight, Continuity Falls, Kaiju Valentine, Typical Strange. Those are more linear universes in that you can't kind of jump into a new timeline. Well, not. You have to continue from the story from where it was. Like I think Typical Strange can it has to linearly carry on, but you don't have to carry on with the same characters, same kind of story. You can that chapter's ended. Now we're off into some other adventure that's happened.
Yeah, it's individual comic issues, and I
Yeah.
laugh because I haven't updated it in so long. But it's like a sitcom. Like it is true. You could kind of start anywhere and have it be anything. But if you break the character relationships too much, it's then it would really be like, where do we go from here? Like,
Hmm.
oh, I really everyone's different now, so it maybe I don't know
I
what to
hate that.
do. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like Gilligan's Island kind of thing. In a way.
And yeah, so Chance and you have the more kind of linear thing, but you're still kind of having to show, okay, so I have to bring this part of the story, I have to show this relationship or this particular situation. How do I do it in the
Mm.
progression of my normal story?
Yeah. For Without Moonlight, it's a bit of a balancing act because it is a historical novel in a sense, in a historical fiction story, and I know that there are certain things that I absolutely need to show, and so I have to make sure that some of the characters are there to experience the things. There's
Yeah,
that. um, and that also limits me in the sense that I cannot show everything I would potentially like to show. I just have to show the things that make sense and also are important enough, and whittle down the list of things, and use dialogue for the other things. Other characters that we don't follow tell us about these things necessarily, not necessarily we don't see them, or we see an aftermath or something like that. um, Same with Verdant, because and Verdant is the first story where I attempt to actually write real political intrigue and machinations and traps and setups and secret things that have happened and nobody knows about, and that's hard, harder than you would think to do.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I have to know exactly what is happening, when it's happening, that nobody else knows because it's off camera, or it is just outside the panel, or it is in the panel, but I must illustrate it like it's nothing important.
yeah,
Um,
it just
right.
happens to be there.
exactly. So when after you have read the entire story in 2000 years, when you reread it, you can see, oh, I see that now. There it is, this thing
Nice. That's
that
great.
I wasn't paying attention to
It
on
was
first
there all
reading.
along, all the clues
Yeah.
hidden.
Um, but that is harder to do. Like, it's cool to think about, oh yeah, I want to do that. I love this. And then it's like, why did I do this?
Yeah, that's web comics in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Well, with
I'll say
that,
another thing I
oh
don't know if
god,
we brought up in Bottomless Waitress, which I've been occupied with Continuity Falls, with Kaiju Valentine. So Bottomless Waitress has taken a back seat. And you've been working on PPTA so much. I've been like, okay, I'm off the hook. But I
no,
know I have to get in and do some more writing. For that one, that's a fun story, and you know, you're very accommodating and accepting of stuff, and I think people are reading it for, they're not reading it for, twisty, brilliant plots or anything like that anyway, but
hmm.
that for that one, I like look at what I've written so far, the pages we've done so far, and then my notes, just brief notes of where it could go, and I just look at those over and over, and then a week later I look at them again over and over. I just let my mind kind of turn it over. Okay, where could we go? We can go here. We can see this. I kind of vaguely know where it's leading, but yeah, like kind of reading what's already been done and doing that with Bottomless Waitress right now. When I have time to get to it, my TV schedule isn't in the way.
Yeah, reading over old pages and stuff like that and scripts really helps get your mind into the right world, doesn't it?
Yeah, and for pacing too. It's like
Yeah.
Hans was saying earlier. Oh, it's been action, action, action. Now it's time for something different. Or,
Yeah, change the rhythm. Ah,
yeah, it's fun stuff though. It's the journey.
the journey is the fun part,
Yeah.
not the destination. Always the journey. Which is why I like drawing pages. I don't like having them finished. That's the most depressing thing in the world.
I like the other
No,
way around. It's nice to be done.
yeah, I love being done, honestly.
Oh well. Well, that's why it takes so long doing my pages. Well, speaking of being done, this has been Quackcast number 783. O's and Ocean, Banes and Tarts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank
Bye.
you.